Hey everybody, this is Anthony with VR Game Rankings. Welcome to episode 58 of our daily vlog series. It of course is Thursday, December 21st. And you know what? We don't have earth-shattering news like we had yesterday. Obviously, yesterday was all Magic Leap all the time. Hope you guys kind of like that discussion, but obviously there are other things going on in the VR industry. And so today I'm going to report on some of these other things, but it is a relatively light news day. So what I will say is towards the back half of the show, we might get into an interesting topic that basically has to deal with the fact that now that Doom VFR, LA Noire, Fallout 4 VFR, now that all these big, huge monster releases are now available, all these games are out, what about what is on the coming soon list? You know, what is coming up in the near future that is going to have us excited and jazzed? You know, what are we looking forward to? I kind of feel like there may be a bit of a power void at the top of the most wanted charts, especially for PC VR. Now, PlayStation VR still has some pretty primetime stuff that is coming in the near term, but PC VR, I don't know, man. It's looking a little bit on the light side there, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Let's go ahead and jump into a few of these minor news topics that we do have. Again, we're in late December now, so we're not going to have earth-shattering news on a regular basis. The Magic Leap situation that happened yesterday, that was a rare event, and we're probably not going to get a lot of stuff like that going forward. So anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. First story of the day, Google Earth VR. Okay, so there has been a major update to Google Earth VR. And the thing that we have to understand when it comes to Google Earth VR, this is one of the best virtual reality applications that we have for any system. Now, right now, this is on the Rift and, of course, the HTC Vive. They don't have Google Earth VR on PlayStation VR. It's one of the few things that PlayStation VR doesn't have. But the amazing thing about Google Earth VR is this is the type of application that you can put your grandma in, okay? You can put your mother-in-law into this. You can put your father-in-law into this. You could put your older uncle that doesn't care about this stuff into this. This is the kind of thing that you can let other people try. And even if they're not into video games, they don't want to press any buttons, they don't want to deal with any of that, they can still probably appreciate just how mind-blowing it is to be able to go anywhere on planet Earth and kind of view it like you're almost there, or like you're almost having an out-of-body experience and you're floating about 20 feet up off of the ground and you're viewing basically anywhere on planet Earth. It is pretty freaking remarkable. It is pretty incredible. And there has been a major update that has been pushed out. I believe yesterday is when this first hit. So what is the big deal here? Well, two things. Number one, Street View navigation has been added. So prior to this, if you went into Street View mode, you were pretty much limited at just looking at what was in that current little space there. And then you had to back up out of it and go a little bit farther and find the next Street View option to get back into it. Well, now, what they're doing now is if there are enough pictures that can connect, this depends on what area you're in when you're viewing Google Earth VR. So you could still be in an area where they don't have enough connected pictures, and then you cannot do this. But in areas where they have enough connected pictures, you can be in Street View mode, and then you can basically move forward. You can teleport kind of to the next picture, and so it's almost like a free-flowing experience in Street View mode. So this is definitely a major improvement, something that a lot of people have been asking for. The other big improvement here is faster loading, okay? So supposedly the geometry is going to load in faster. You're not going to have to wait as long. Okay, now, I'll tell you what. Okay, first, actually, let me go ahead and read what they say on their Steam page. The Earth is a big place, and with 196.9 million square miles to explore, we could all benefit from being able to explore more faster. Today's update lets you do just that. With Street View navigation, you can take in all the sights without ever leaving Street View mode. As long as an adjacent 360 photo exists, you'll be able to stroll along the streets and roads as if you're there. Additionally, we've worked hard to make changes that more efficiently use your bandwidth, resulting in faster load times. Over the holidays, check out medieval architecture in Sofia, fly over the monastery in El Escorial in Spain, or walk up the Celeron steps in Rio. As always, happy exploring. Okay, I probably murdered some of those pronunciations of some of those places there at the end, but you get the basic idea. So here's the deal. I normally do not go into VR experiences before doing this daily vlog. Typically, I wake up, check out the news, you know, kind of figure all that stuff out, prepare the show, do the show. Normally, I do not go into VR before I do this show. However, today, I wanted to try this Google Earth thing out. I wanted to get a first-hand experience of it so that I could comment better on this for this story, obviously. And you know what? I went in there, okay, and I was able to use the Street View navigation. However, I will say that one of the things that does bother me a little bit with Google VR is that you do have that Street View mode where you kind of feel like you're there, and it's like a 360 picture of almost any place on the planet, which is just baffling, really. But the one downside to it is I feel like I'm floating about 17 feet off the ground. And so I thought there was some kind of option where you could click on some type of setting or something and it would actually put you so that you feel like you're standing on the ground and that you're at a normal height of somebody standing on the ground and looking at a 360 picture like your feet are on the ground in this space. And when I tried this today, I could not get that to work. I don't know if that's even available. So I was able to do it. It is really cool. I mean, it's awesome. It's absolutely incredible. But I felt like, you know, I kind of feel like I'm floating like 16, 17 feet off the ground. And I understand why that happens, because when Google, you know, those trucks that drive around your neighborhood and they take pictures of everything, they're obviously up higher. That's where the camera is that is capturing everything. And so that's where you end up. You end up at that height where you're like on top of a van looking at stuff. And so I kind of wish there was some way, though, that they could get you on the ground level. Maybe there is, and I'm just not doing it right. So you guys can tell me if I'm doing something wrong here. The other thing is as you're moving through the Street View mode, yeah, you can move, but you can't just flow like you're just floating in the air like you can do it when you have it in like the 3D geometry mode where you're just flying and floating around. Now, of course, this is 360 pictures, so they can't really do that in that kind of a way. So that's something we'll probably be looking at towards the future. The other thing about the faster loading, I didn't notice any of that today. It didn't seem to load any faster than I've ever seen it. But I wasn't in it for an extremely long period of time, so maybe I would have noticed it more had I stayed in there longer. But just Google Earth VR in general, I mean, I was just in there, I was looking around, I went to some place in Spain somewhere, and I was going down the streets, and it's crazy how you see people, you see cars. Now, what they do is they blur out the faces of people, they blur out the license plates, you know, they do a lot of that stuff, right? But it's just crazy that it's almost like this kind of technology, like this Google Earth VR technology, this is like what the CIA probably had in the 80s. And now regular humans are able to experience this kind of stuff without having to be like a CIA agent and having top secret clearance. Just being able to go anywhere and look at stuff like this, it is truly remarkable. If you're going on a trip somewhere, you can kind of go there first in Google VR and kind of get a lay of the land. I mean, that is really cool. So definitely go ahead and check out Google Earth VR. And if there is a way to actually get it where your boots are on the ground, I'd love to know how to do that. I went into the settings, I looked at stuff, I couldn't seem to get down onto the ground, because that's really what I would want to do with Google Earth VR. Okay, so our next news story is the Exorcist Legion VR. Okay, so this has been released, of course, on the Oculus Rift and on the HTC Vive. You can get, of course, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 of the Exorcist Legion VR. I believe it is $5 for each of these chapters. I played the first one, First Rites, I believe is what it's called. Thought it was really well done. They run about 20 to 25 minutes or so. Very freaky, very scary. Definitely not for the faint of heart as far as I was concerned. Very good job that Wolf and Wood Interactive did with that. I would like to play the second chapter. I should probably pick that up and give that a playthrough. But the news story that we have today is the developer has sent out an email update letting people know that the PlayStation VR version is going to be coming in the very near future. I'll go ahead and read what they said here. We would like to update you on our progress with PlayStation VR. The PSVR builds are complete on the development side for chapters 1 and 2. We have been participating in Sony's VR consultation rounds since late October and pushing behind the scenes to get the intricacies of the game working within the PSN framework. This is achievements and stuff like that. The Sony teams in both Europe and US have been incredibly supportive. We're making daily progress. Sony is closing their quality assurance division for the holidays beginning today through January 5th. At the earliest, we hope to be releasing in mid-January, assuming all the administration on Sony's system is completed. Thank you for your patience and continued support. We're anxious to get the Exorcist Legion VR into PSVR headsets. The silver lining is that the release process for chapters 3, 4, and 5 will be much more streamlined. Wait until you see chapter 4. Okay, so, I mean, this isn't like major news here, but I thought it was kind of interesting that you kind of get a little bit of a behind-the-scenes look. So, especially on PlayStation VR, that's the thing. When these developers are bringing out their games on PSVR, it's a different ball game than bringing it out for PC. Sony has a lot of requirements. You have to pass certification. The game has to go through some basic testing. They have to make sure that it operates in a certain way for all players, that it works right on a vanilla PlayStation 4, that it works right on the PlayStation 4 Pro. They go through a lot of this quality assurance type stuff. And we are in the holidays, and what happens is a lot of companies will shut down certain parts of their operation during the holiday period, and that's what's happened here. You know, their quality assurance division is closed. It's closed from now until January 5th. So if there's any PSVR games that are supposed to be coming out, but if they haven't passed cert yet, well, those games are not coming out until sometime a little bit later in January because they are closed. It is a closed shop. So that is a little bit of a behind the scenes look at some of that stuff that these publishers and developers have to deal with that we don't normally think about. And then, of course, you know, they talked about Chapter 4. So they must think that Chapter 4 is really banging. Obviously, I don't believe we've gotten Chapters 3, 4, and 5 on the PC side yet. Again, these are supposed to come a little bit later. But that is the Exorcist Legion VR, and it is coming to PSVR. Probably, I would say, a little bit later in January, because you know when they come back on January 5th, they're not necessarily going to focus everything to get this Exorcist VR out as fast as possible. So you could be looking at late January for that if you are a PSVR gamer. Okay, next little tidbit I have is Ancient Emulator has released on Steam. Now, Ancient Emulator is by TI Games. It's available for $20. It's now on Steam. This originally came out to PlayStation VR kind of last summer, might have been a little bit later in summer. Then it came to the Oculus Rift, and it was on the Oculus Rift for a little while, and now it is finally hit the HTC Vive. So I believe this game came out on Tuesday, so it actually came out a couple of days ago. Not a bad game from what I've heard. See, first of all, I've played this on PSVR, and it is an enjoyable game. Now, it's kind of a wave shooter where you're kind of in a fixed location, but you can teleport to all these different spots. And basically, there's endless waves of enemies that are attacking your defenses. It's kind of a tower defense kind of a thing. And you have to transfer to these different spots, battle the enemies, and then you're like, oh, they're coming from that side over there. Now I need to teleport over there. And it's an archery-based game for the most part. But it does offer like three people to play at the same time. So you can have multiplayer, you can have other people in the experience at the same time. I've heard it works well. I heard the graphics are great on the Vive, on the Steam version, looks really good. So this could be a game that kind of slipped under the radar, and like we're going to talk about later, there isn't a ton of primary games that are coming in the near term. So you might want to take a look at Ancient Emulator if you're looking for a new game to play. Okay, the last of the little stories I have is Ultrawings for PlayStation VR. This is by Bit Planet Games. You might remember Ultrawings came out quite a while back on the Oculus Rift. This is kind of a Pilot Wing style game. Came out a long time ago on the Rift, then it came of course to the HTC Vive. Well, the game has been in development for PlayStation VR for an extremely long period of time. The developer has tweeted out various pictures and photos of the game over the last several months, but it has been delayed, and it was just delayed forever. We didn't know when it was going to come out. Well, the game finally came out, and it came out this Tuesday, and I was able to get a code from Bit Planet Games. They did provide me with a review code, and I hopped into the game yesterday, and I played it quite a bit yesterday. And I have to say, I am impressed with what they have done. Now, I am, of course, playing it on a PlayStation 4 Pro. I don't know that there is any PS4 Pro support right from the get-go, though, so it might look just as good on a vanilla PlayStation 4, but I was pretty impressed graphically with what's going on here. And what it is when you're in this game, so you're basically flying like these ultralight planes, almost like glider planes, and you're kind of flying them through hoops, and you have to land your plane, you have to perform different maneuvers, and then you get points based on this. And you can get like a silver medal, you can go for a gold medal. It is very similar to Pilot Wings. Now, it does have an arcade mode, it has a simulation mode. I basically stayed in the arcade mode. The other major thing that you have to know about this game is that it provides 3 different options from a standpoint of comfort settings. So you have the first option is like maximum comfort, and what it does is you're in the cockpit and you have a clear view in the front, but your side windows are kind of like covered with, it's almost like tinted windows, if you will. And then if you look closer to it, then the tint goes away and you can look out of it, but you don't always see out of your side windows. And this is done for to help you with basically motion sickness, to avoid motion sickness. Then on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, the windows are completely open and clear and you can see everywhere, but it could provide a little bit more motion sickness. And then in an in-between mode, the windows are clear, but the gaps in the windows are really thick and pronounced, so you see more of the cockpit of the plane. So you have these 3 different options, and the good news is pretty much everybody out there will probably be able to find one of these options that works for them. Now, if you have to use the option where it really blocks your view off, if that's the only way you can play this game, I think the game would suffer a little bit, because I was playing it in that mode to begin with, and I was like, this is kind of lame how my view is blocked off. I went into the options, I changed it, now it's completely clear, and I didn't really feel much of a motion sickness. You know, you do get a little bit of an ooziness when you start to turn, you know, you're in your plane and you start to bank your plane. You might get a little bit of queasiness, but I thought it was pretty good. I think most of the queasiness that I felt was basically in my mind, kind of expecting to feel queasiness. That could be a problem. The placebo effect, of course. But I was in there and I'm looking at my plane, I'm looking at the cockpit. Everything was pretty smooth. I was flying through these rings, Pilot Wing style, trying to get gold medals. Pretty darn good. I had a good time. Now, this is a $20 game. The one thing I will say about it, and this goes for a ton of games out there. There's so many games that are $20, $19.99. And what you got to understand with a lot of these $20 games, they're not going to deliver everything that you want it to deliver. They're not going to, most of them anyway, most of them are not going to deliver this game that is just going to satisfy every craving that you have. Usually what they're going to do is they're going to deliver a certain style of gameplay that is going to be cool, and you're going to want to go into it, you're going to experience it, you're going to have some fun, and then a couple days later you go back into it, you have some more fun, but it's not necessarily going to be the kind of experience that you're going to go in day after day after day, and it's going to just feed you this gameplay euphoria like a Fallout 4 VR or something, or a Lone Echo or something like that. It's not that type of thing, and there are a ton of $19.99 games that are like this. Ancient Emulator Emulator. I just talked about that. Similar to that. Well, Ultrawings is kind of in that category. So it's not going to deliver all your dreams. I hope people understand this when you're buying these $19.99 games. They're kind of like hold me over type games that can do a great job, and you're not paying a ton of money. So I think it works out. Okay, so the final topic I wanted to get into, all the news is done and there just isn't a lot. So what I wanted to get into now is I wanted to talk briefly about the idea that there is a power void in the PC VR coming soon situation. Okay, so this is something that we cover with intense anticipation at VR Game Rankings. What are the biggest games that are coming soon? One of the things that we wanted to do with VR Game Rankings is celebrate all the incredible games that we have right now. Give the games their proper due, celebrate them. Let's love these VR games, rank them, talk about the best games, all of that. We want to do that. But the other thing that we want to do is we want to kind of add a little bit of hype to what is coming in the future, because that's one of the best things about being in this video game hobby. Is one of the most beautiful things about it is we always have big exciting things on the horizon to look forward to. But if you are an HTC Vive gamer, if you are an Oculus Rift gamer, the unfortunate side effect of having all these big releases that have just launched is we don't have a ton of stuff that is on the way. I mean, Fallout 4 VR, we've waited forever for it. We had so much anticipation for it. It's out. Doom VFR, same thing. LA Noire, same thing. These games are out, man. They're out. They're available. They are known quantities. So what is exciting? What is coming up soon? Well, I'm looking at the HTC Vive top 20 most wanted list. The number one game is Budget Cuts, okay? And Budget Cuts, I'm not going to try to disparage Budget Cuts. Budget Cuts could be incredibly awesome, but that's the number one most wanted game. So where is the heat? You know, where is the primetime games that are coming? We don't really know of anything right now. It's kind of a little bit of a Debbie Downer situation. Okay, number 2, Half-Life 2 VR mod. This is something I've talked with my buddy Erwin X. I can remember back late summer talking about Half-Life 2 VR mod, and he was thinking it was going to come out any day now. Well, we're about to be in 2018. This Half-Life 2 VR mod is nowhere to be found. I really hope it does come out. In the back of my mind, though, I'm kind of wondering about Valve themselves. Do they have something planned that is in relation to Half-Life 2 VR, and maybe this kind of conflicts with their plans? I don't know. I'm not trying to start a controversy or anything like that, but who knows what could possibly be going on behind the scenes with the Half-Life 2 VR mod. Number 3 on the HTC Vive most wanted list, Seeking Dawn by Multiverse Entertainment. Now we saw, I believe there was a new trailer that came out with this, and kind of it was delayed until 2018. I think that was acknowledged as well. Seeking Dawn is a game that has jumped up to a lot of people's most wanted list because graphically it just looks really awesome. But we really don't know much of anything about this. I mean, we don't know that much about this developer. There's so many games like this that look like they're incredible, but then when we actually get them, they don't really live up to the hype. I'm hoping Seeking Dawn is a game that does live up to the hype, but we don't really have much of a pedigree from Multiverse Entertainment, so we don't really know. Number 4, Transference. This is this game coming from Spectravision, which is Elijah Woods and a couple of other people got involved. They came up with this new entertainment company. You know, they're real big believers in VR, and this is one of their first projects. We don't have a lot of information on this. There's not a lot of like videos or screenshots or anything. This is supposedly coming in spring 2018. I believe Ubisoft might be publishing this. And this is coming to all 3 platforms. So, you know, there is some excitement there. But again, we don't really know that much about it. Not really a known quantity. Number 5, Megaton Rainfall. This has already come out to PSVR. People love it on PSVR. I love it on PSVR. Now, when this comes to the Vive and the Rift, it should be even better. It should be even graphic, you know, graphics should be even better. So that's exciting. But it's a known quantity. It's already available on a current platform right now. Windlands 2 is coming sometime soon. That's number 6. Apex Construct is number 7 by Fast Travel Games. Dimension Dude. I mean, hardly anybody knows what the hell Dimension Dude is, and it's ranked up there at number 8. And so this is just kind of an example of what the hell is coming soon. Do we have any big games? Now, if you go to the Oculus side, they do have Marvel Powers United VR. They do have that coming, and that is actually a pretty big game being developed by Sanzaru Games. It's using the Robo Recall engine. Now, some people have looked at it, and some people tried it at that Best Buy when they had a very temporary demo that you could try, and some people kind of talked a lot of smack about it and said, you know what, this isn't really doing anything. It's just kind of a reskin of Robo Recall. I don't know. I think this is going to be pretty decent. I'm not sure when it's coming out. We think first quarter 2018. But honestly, if you look at the Oculus Top 20, it isn't that much better. I mean, they do have Brass Tactics coming in February, but they don't really have a major heavy hitter like a Fallout 4 or a Doom VFR or an LA Noire or stuff along those lines. So I do feel like we have a little bit of a power void right now in terms of coming soon. Now, hopefully we'll get some new announcements in the very near future, and there could be a couple of games that I simply have missed, haven't been tracking quite as well, that could be coming soon. But anyway, you guys can hop over to VR Game Rankings. You can check out the top 20 most wanted for the various platforms, the top 20 overall and the top 50 overall. And if you see a particular game that you know that is coming, that is a big primetime game, go ahead and drop us a line. info@vrgamerankings.com is the email. Drop us a line if you think there's a big major game that we're not covering that should get some props. But I do believe it is a wee bit of a power void. Okay, so that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. This has been episode 58 of our daily vlog series. It, of course, is Thursday, December 21st. Everybody have a wonderful Thursday, and I will see everybody tomorrow on Friday. Take it easy. Later.